Welcome to the Boom Bap Kingdom. Yo, peace and welcome to the Boom Bap Kingdom. We're here, we're chilling. I wanted to reach back out to you guys, do a follow-up on that Behringer LM Drum video that I did last week. That video got a lot of views. I really didn't think that many people would be interested in that unit. With that being said, someone else is very interested in that unit and they're not happy about that device and had some pretty sharp things to say about that sampler. And that would be none other than Uncle Roger Lynn. Yes, the GOAT himself, the inventor of the Lynn drum, the LM1, LM2, MPC 60, MPC 62, and the MPC 3000. He commented recently about the LM drum from Behringer. The LM drum, if you don't know, is a clone of the famous Lynn drum from the mid to late 80s. It was used on a plethora of hits ranging from Phil Collins to Prince. A lot of people used it. I even used it late 80s, around 87. I used it to program drums for beats for records that actually were released. I'll leave a link in the description to my previous video about the LM drum. Today I just wanted to take a few minutes and speak about Roger Lynn's comments. So let's see what he said. So apparently Roger Lynn received a demo of the LM drum from Behringer back in August of 2024. But in December of 2024, Behringer announced the LM drum. They did a teaser on YouTube, etc., etc. Roger Lynn has had time to sit with the Behringer LM drum and form an opinion. I will leave the articles where I read this information also in the description below if you guys are interested in reading. But in a nutshell, he states that Uli Behringer kindly sent me an LM drum in August of 2024, giving me a chance to try it out. What do I think? I think it's a bit of a head scratcher. It is clearly intended to evoke my 1982 Lynn drum machine, borrowing its visual style, control layout, colors, and logo style. Very interesting. As well as copying its sounds and those of my LM1 and Lynn 9000 drum machines. I took it apart, and it even copies much of my Lynn drum sound generation circuit. Very interesting. Behringer literally copied Roger Lynn's circuitry. He states even my bad ideas, like the inability to tune any drums except the snare, toms, and congas. And he goes on to talk about this thing in depth. And he actually states that, and I quote, the Behringer Lynn drum is confusing and difficult to use. This is Roger Lynn talking about the Behringer LM drum. He states it's confusing and difficult to use. He also goes on to say he questions the ethics of Behringer copying Lynn drum's samples without permission. Wow. So when you go on to read, and there's one or two other articles floating around, according to Roger Lynn, they took his color scheme, form factor, logo design, the original samples, the literal circuit that's in the unit. They copied all of his ideas, and they did not ask for permission. That is pretty crazy, especially in 2025. Now, I will go on to say that I feel in this whole beat making production industry that Roger Lynn received the short end of the stick. We all know, if you keep your ear to the industry, we all know that Akai did him dirty. If you look at Dave Rossum, he was able to retain the rights of his intellectual property. Emu went out of business decades ago. But if you look at Rossum with his SP1200 reissue, he owns the design. He owns everything. It looks the same, etc., etc. So apparently Dave Rossum did a different type of deal with Emu than that of Roger Lynn's deal with Akai. Akai was bought and sold multiple times, and every time it was bought and sold, the terms of his deal changed. His deal was very, from what I understand when I researched it, his deal with Akai was very loosely worded. It was not a very detailed agreement. Therefore, every time Akai changed hands, his deal with them was reinterpreted. I can understand why Roger Lynn is coming across as very bitter, because a lot of these companies are looking to reinvent the past, and they have to look at the ideas of old. They take from that, and they feel they could just take from that freely, like as if the copyrights have expired or something like that. But this is intellectual property. This was someone's idea. So the fact that Behringer took that idea without permission is astonishing. You would think that they would have reached out and said, hey, can we do this? He goes on to state that they offered him like a minuscule royalty off of each unit. It was so minuscule, he turned it down. It didn't even make sense to him. So I find this very interesting that Behringer went forward with a project that they did not even have the blessing from the originator. If you look at the Isla S2400, in the beginning of its development, Isla Brad is the owner of Isla. He reached out to Dave Rossum. This is before he started to reissue SP1200s. And he reached out to him and asked if it would be okay to create the S2400. The S2400 was originally going to be called the SP2400, but the SP1200 user community, not all of them, but some of them, really leaned into Brad and Isla in disdain. You know, they were angered at the fact he was going to create his version of an updated SP1200. So he changed the name to S2400, but I say all of that to say initially he had Dave Rossum's blessing to do it. He asked for it, received it, and he moved forward with his project. And S2400 is one of my favorite samplers to use. If you look at Behringer with the LM Drum, apparently they didn't ask permission. They used a lot of Roger Lynn's intellectual property, and Roger Lynn seems a little upset about that, and I think deservedly so. So there you have it, the LM Drum, the drama between Behringer and Roger Lynn is beginning, and I'm really curious as to how this is going to unfold. I kind of like this, these guys going at it. It's going to be really interesting. I want you to get in those comments. Let me know what you think. Are you still considering an LM Drum now understanding that Behringer kind of stole his intellectual property. They were, they rebranded it and they're going to put it out there. Are you going to support that, or or do you side with Roger Lynn and his argument? Man, he had some stuff to say. I hope this video finds you well. I hope you guys have an excellent 2025. We're gonna get busy in here. The Boom Bap Kingdom. I got more beat making videos coming. I'm still in transition. I added a couple of pieces of outboard gear, etc., etc. But we're gonna get back to those beat making videos. I know you guys love. We're gonna keep doing some of these talking pieces because this is really interesting to me, and I find this part of the business very fun. Understanding what these companies are doing, and et cetera, et cetera, because that affects us as producers and beat makers. So, with all of that said, I'm going to leave you guys with a BBK salute. Peace.